Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Thornton.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you introduce yourself, tell us your name and your DOC number, please?
Melvin Thornton, 351810.
All right, Mr. Thornton. Let me introduce or acknowledge the folks who joined us. In support today, we have your sister Ruthie Thornton and Mr. Darrell Miles with the First 72, both of whom will be speaking on your behalf. Here in opposition, we have representing the victim is Kitty Martinez, or Martinez, I'm not sure. We'll hear from her at the appropriate time. First, let me just read some information into the record, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Roche. Your case has been assigned again this afternoon. So, Mr. Thornton, you're currently serving a life sentence. You were sentenced in January 2002 in the 3rd Judicial District in Lincoln Parish for a second-degree murder. You're serving a life sentence. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Roche.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Thornton. How are you?
Fine, and yourself, sir?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking. Madam Chairman, fellow board members, we have Melvin Thornton, 351-810. Mr. Thornton is here today seeking a recommendation for a commutation of sentence for a 202 conviction for second-degree murder in a meditated murder of Mr. Frank Dunaway on April 10, 1999. On April 12, the offender admitted that he was at John's Beer Bar on April 10th and saw Mr. Dunaway's truck in the vicinity. He said that he had nothing to do with Mr. Dunaway's shooting. Law enforcement could not verify his alibi because he said he was at his aunt's house, but the aunt said that he was at the house, but he left and didn't return until after midnight. When they couldn't verify his alibi, he was arrested and charged, he was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. On January 26, 2002, some 33 months after he was arrested, a jury of 12 of his peers found Thornton guilty of second-degree murder by a vote of 12-0. And 5 days later, on January 31st, he was sentenced to life and hard labor at DOC without benefit of probation, parole, or suspension sentence. Mr. Thornton has made multiple attempts to appeal this conviction. All attempts have been denied. Mr. Thornton is currently 46 years old. He was 24 years of age at the time of Mr. Dunaway's murder. Mr. Thornton, for you, any time between the time you were arrested and January 26, 2002, when you were convicted, at any time during that period, did you bond out of jail for any reason?
No, sir.
So you were incarcerated for the entire 24 years?
Yes, sir.
I find it funny that at the sentencing, when you were sentenced, the judge gave you 154 days of jail credit. Was there any reason for that 154 days jail credit?
Not that I know of, sir. I didn't even remember that. I was in jail for the whole time I was arrested. That's all I know.
So you were in jail for the whole 33 months in between your arrest and your conviction.
Yes, sir.
So you've been incarcerated for 24 years.
Yes, sir.
Over the last 24 years, you have given many different versions of the events that happened on April 10th, 1999. Today is a day that we need to know exactly what happened when you got into the trunk, the bed of the trunk of Mr. Donaway, Mr. Frank Donaway.
Yes, sir. Myself, my cousins, and Mr. Caldwell went to the store. Mr. Caldwell proceeded to the other side of the store and had a conversation with Mr. Dunaway. He came back to us, said he wanted to go with Mr. Dunaway around the corner and talk about getting him, which is slang terminology for robbing him. I agreed to go with him. He got in the truck, went around the corner. He's sitting behind Mr. Dunaway. I was sitting on the opposite side of the bed. He gave the directions. We stopped. We got off the truck, approached the driver's side window. He and I had an exchange. Mr. Dunaway looked at me. He smiled, and I fired a shot. And
Okay, let me stop you there, Mr. Thornton. That's another version. Mr. Donaway, do you dispute that as Rodney Caldwell was getting out the bed of the trunk, you said, give it up? And when Mr. Caldwell looked back to see what was happening, and you, at point blank range, shot Mr. Frank Donaway.
no, I don't deny. I shot Mr. Dunaway, but
Okay.
Rodney
Said you shot him. You said you shot him.
yes, sir.
Mr. Caldwell went to the driver's side. Mr. Donaway grabbed Rodney, and he wouldn't let him go. You gave him a command to let him go. He used vulgarity at you, and then you shot him.
Yeah, that was a version I put in one of the appeals. As I said, as I should say,
We don't need a version. We don't need a version, Mr. Thornton. We need the truth.
yes, and what I've told you is the truth. We both approached the window. Initially, Rodney gave all the instructions to the driver. We both approached the truck window, and I shot Mr. Dunaway.
So when Rodney's father brought him in to the police station that Sunday and told him exactly what happened, he wasn't telling the truth.
He wasn't telling the full truth, but again, he didn't shoot the man. I shot Mr. Dunaway. I did that. He had participated up until a point, but I was the one who wrongfully.
Question, Mr. Clark, was Mr. Caldwell arrested?
No, sir. He was not.
You were only one arrested in the murder of Mr. Frank Donaway.
Yes, sir.
So that tells me he didn't have any participation, or he was not at any fault in the death of Mr. Dunaway?
No.
If Mr. Caldwell was at the window in an argument with Mr. Dunaway, when you shot him, he would be a principal to murder.
Yes, sir. I agree.
And by him not being prosecuted tells me that he had no involvement in the murder of Mr. Dunaway.
I'm not sure how. Can you explain to me how you are perceiving what's being said? Because what happened was Mr. Caldwell went into the police station. For whatever reason, they didn't try him as no principal or anything. But again, I'm the one who shot Mr. Dunaway. So
Okay, let's continue. Let's continue. Let's go over the opposition that you have in this case. The opposition in this case comes from Judge Wayne Smith of the 3rd JDC, District Attorney John Belton of the 3rd JDC, the Sheriff of Lincoln Parish, the Chief of Police of Ruston, Louisiana, and the Chief of Police of Grambling, Louisiana. The entire legal community in Lincoln Parish is opposed to your clemency. You also have opposition from the victim's family. And I think we have a member of the family here today, and she will be making a statement at the appropriate time. Mr. Thornton, your criminal career started in California, am I correct?
yes, sir.
In 1990, your criminal career started, and let me just get to it. 1 second. And on August 10th, 1990, you was arrested by the Los Angeles Police Department for robbery. Is that correct?
Robert, 1990.
August 10th, 1990, my record shows that you were arrested by the Los Angeles Police Department for robbery.
No, sir. I'm unfamiliar with that case.
How
I
about
got it.
July 91, you were arrested by the Los Angeles Police Department for assault with a deadly weapon, and it concerned a police officer or firefighter. You remember that?
Yes, sir. I hit the sheriff officer with a rock.
And then in October of 1991, you were arrested by the Long Beach Police Department for petty theft. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, sir.
In August of 1993, you were arrested again by the Los Angeles Police Department for assault with a deadly weapon with intent to create great bodily injury. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So you had an extensive criminal background in California before coming to Louisiana.
Yes, sir.
And most of those things were violent offenses.
Yes, sir.
And then you came to Louisiana in 1994, the year after your last arrest in California, and you were arrested in Lincoln Parish for possession of marijuana and simple burglary. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
1995, attempted burglary of an auto and resisting arrest. And you got 6 years at hard labor. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was suspended and you were placed on probation. Just 4 months later, you got arrested again in Lincoln Parish. Simple burglary, contributing to delinquency of a minor, cruelty to animals, simple criminal damage to property. You got 6 years in hard labor. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You've rolled out, and then in 1999, you got arrested in Ruston. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
The second degree murder. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You were revoked in 1995. You were revoked in 1998. And you were on supervision when you committed this crime and you got revoked again. Is that correct?
No, sir. I got revoked after catching this particular offense. I got out in 98 and was revoked that I'm aware of.
Sir, in Lincoln docket number 39-152, on April 26, 1995, you got a 2-year sentence, suspended, 5 years active probation, and on July 25th, 1995, your probation was revoked due to a new felony. That's one revocation.
Okay.
And then you were charged with a new felony in 2001 and got revoked again. Is that correct?
I didn't remember being revoked in 95, but that's probably the truth. I know I caught the new felony, so it's just something I probably didn't remember. My apologies for the oversight.
And then you were revoked when you committed this offense, right?
Yes, sir.
So tell me, how do you think that you're eligible to commute your sentence with an extensive criminal history, a history of violence, and a poor supervision record?
I can agree that I've been highly immature in dealing with life itself, and the board would have no reason to trust me based on my past record. Only thing that I can tell this board today is that I am truly remorseful for everything I've done. I've come to the understanding of why I was wrong and what I've done, and that I'm remorseful for all of those acts, and that I've grown since this incarceration by taking these classes and doing even independent study on my own into my own behavior and mending my ways to better fit a society.
But you gotta realize you are a third felony offender, and that doesn't count your offenses in California.
Yes, sir.
And most people we see for a commutation of sentence is a first felony offender who has 1 or 2 arrests on his record. You have multiple arrests, you have a history of violence, and you can be convicted in Louisiana of 3 felonies, and you have 2 or 3 convictions in California.
Yes, sir.
He's been incarcerated for 24 years. His current job assignment is a legal worker. Tell us what you do, Mr. Thornton.
Primarily, I do disciplinary board court. So when the guys get in trouble, I'm pretty much charged with protecting their rights and giving them the advice they may need to either move forward or take whatever plea bargain it is and counsel them like that.
Mr. Thornton, as a low risk assessment, he has a GED. He's completed anger management, substance abuse. Tell us about some other programs that you completed.
100 Hours is another program I completed. Trauma healing is another course I've just completed. Taking a lot of other little minor classes like critical thinking, transactional analysis, and higher ground, standing on higher ground. You know,
How about thinking for a change?
yes, sir. I took that as well. That's one I I think last year I completed.
You completed in 2022.
Yes, sir.
You're currently 46 years old. You're in minimum custody.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about your vocational education and skills.
Yes, I took culinary arts, and then I took graphic communications and received a diploma in both, plus 8 certifications in graphic arts.
And you are a registered tutor, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about the organizations that you participate in.
I'm a member of the Lifers organization, in which I chair the public relations committee at this time. I started out in youth development before transferring. I was also a long-standing member of the drama club, in which before disbandment, I had became the president, and also was active in the Islamic community as well. So I've been part of a couple organizations here.
Okay, now tell me, well, first of all, he has a good institutional record. He has a great work ethic, and he is a minimum age trustee. How long have you been a trustee?
Oh man, let's see, right at a decade, I would say, about 10 years.
Disciplinary record is 7 write-ups and 24 years of incarceration. The last one was in May of 2012, about 11 years ago, and it was for theft.
Sure.
What was that about?
I was trying to get my nephews assigned on the or approved on the visiting list and got impatient. We ran a job at the print shop I was working at the time. Once the job was done, we had some extra forms. I took one of those forms and sent it home to my sister there, and she sent it back. Of course, classification caught the mishap and said, "Hey man, you did this. Why'd you do this?" And I told him, and he said, "Well, I'm gonna write you up." I said, "Yes, sir." And when the warden questioned me about it, I told him the truth. Look, man, I took the form, I sent it, I accept that, and went and pled guilty in the disciplinary court and received my sanctions.
Okay. The first residency plan I saw, you said you had no residency plan. But then later on in my report, I see where you had a residency plan in Ruston, Louisiana with Lynette Banks, and you were working in Arcadia, Louisiana. What happened to that plan?
My little sister, she fell into some hard times, and that changed my circumstance. And I said, I need to go somewhere else probably anyway. So, I chose to try to go with the first 72 plus. Give me a little bit more structure, provided the board would show their mercy to give me some structure and a good chance to reintegrate and do some good things.
So you're telling me your current transition plan is with the first 72, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you finish with the first 72, what, you need a permanent plan. So what's your permanent plan after you finish transition with the first 72?
I'll probably go to Nevada. I was looking back at Henderson, Nevada, where I stayed in about 89. It looked like a nice little town, so I was thinking about going back there if I don't go back to California.
Let's talk about drugs and alcohol. Have you ever abused illegal drugs?
Yes, sir, I have.
At what age?
I started with marijuana around 13.
13. Did you graduate to anything stronger?
No, sir.
You've never used cocaine, you've never used heroin,
No, sir.
meth,
No,
so
sir.
you had marijuana addiction. How long did you use marijuana?
Off and on up until maybe 03.
So basically, you used marijuana after you were incarcerated.
Yes, sir, I did.
Was the last time you used any form of illegal drugs?
03.
And you were at Louisiana State Penitentiary?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your honesty. So what have you done since 2003 to treat your addiction to marijuana?
Well, the first thing I did was decide to stop, to figure out or look objectively at my life and say, man, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to continue to make the mistakes you've been making? Are you going to get your stuff together and hope that one day you may receive mercy to be able to go out into society and function as a normal human being? When I look back at my life, I've done nothing. Since the age of 8, I've been in trouble. And, I just had to make a decision not to. And I started taking these programs.
Answer my question. What programs have you taken that assist you with your marijuana addiction?
I took substance abuse.
Which substance abuse?
I'm not sure which one it was. Huh?
Living in balance.
Yeah, living in balance, sir.
And what did you get out of living in balance?
Living in balance taught me, first of all, that I was not in control and that I needed to get in control and manage my life, because I was not managing my life. Not only was the substance abuse a problem for me, but crime was an addiction for me. I was addicted to getting in trouble. That's something I became addicted to. I was addicted to going to jail and getting out, receiving that little first 2 or 3 month love that you receive, and then it fall off. So I got addicted to those things. So I looked at not only the substance abuse, but other things I was addicted to. And it started helping me understand that I needed to manage my life better.
So tell me or outline for me your ongoing sobriety plan. What is your ongoing sobriety plan?
Well, to understand that stress is a part of life, that when I feel stressed and feel like I may want to do something to escape, there's no escape. And therefore, I must remember, first of all, there's a higher power that I need to be in touch with that can aid me. If there's for any reason that I feel like I needed to go do a drug, then I need to go find me a treatment center somewhere or some counselor and get some real professional help and not try to do it on my own.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Ward Nambo, do you have any comments, concerns, or remarks?
Yes, I just want to let you know that Melvin is a minimum aid trustee. He's assigned to the inmate council. He's a certified inmate counsel. He's been a minimum class trustee since 2014. He has a total of 7 DBs. He also has certification in graphic communication and culinary arts.
Thank you, Honorable. Madam Chairman, I do have a recommendation in this case, and I will share with my fellow board members at the conclusion of this interview.
Thank you, Mr. Roshan. All right, let's hear from the first 72, please.
Unmute.
You're still muted.
Excuse me. Yes, I'm Darryl Miles, First 72 Plus. And we're here in total support of Mr. Thornton. After reviewing Mr. Thornton's reentry plan, we've come to believe that our program can assist him with the transition that we believe he needs. Our program have various different departments that will assist Mr. Thornton in job training, as far as being able to conduct himself well at interviews, other social programs that we have, which is one that we call 9 Steps to Staying Free. In that program, we discuss all the ills that individuals coming out of prison may encounter. Those programs are taught basically by other formerly incarcerated people who have the same experiences and can offer the help to an individual coming out of prison. We also have a 24-hour hotline where any individual who has been in prison can call us to seek counseling in the time of need. So Mr. Thornton would be covered in his transition should the board make such recommendation. And we'll be here with him to support all the areas that he needs support in. And with that, we thank you for giving Mr. Thornton an opportunity to prove that he has changed and will continue to change if released to society. Thank you.
All right, and thank you. Miss Ruthie Thornton, Mr. Thornton's sister.
Yes.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks for asking. Go ahead, we'd like your statement.
I just wanted to I'm a little nervous, so y'all kind of look over me because I'm not a big public speaker. So y'all look over me. But I wanted to kind of, give y'all a light on our childhood coming up and maybe Melvin and I'm his younger sister by 2 years. Melvin is 2 years older than me. So I've been with Melvin pretty much all of my life. We have been in and out foster home care systems together, transferred to different homes with different family members together. We were beaten, by people, and coming up with, there was no such thing as, we didn't know anything about child abuse, you know what I'm saying? We were hit with things like drumsticks and extension cords and stuff like that. In our past, our mother was a teenager when she had us, so she was young, and both our mother and father both struggled with drug addiction. And we never had a relationship with our mother's side of the family because we are biracial. We both have had traumatic experiences as kids, such as being molested and being beat and stuff like that. Melvin took on the role of being my protector at a very, very young age. I'm talking about before I'm 4 or 5 years old. Melvin, took on the role, and he found ways to feed us when we was hungry. He kept me protected from any harm. He wouldn't let nobody bring any harm to me. Even as teenagers, I couldn't even have a boyfriend, you know what I'm saying? Because he was so protective and stuff. We moved from Barstow to Los Angeles. He went 2 years before I did. When I came, he took on the road to continue to protect me, walking me across the street, walking me to school. I believe that due to our, we was went to Los Angeles, it was around drugs and gangs and drinking and everything else. And so I believe that due to our environment, circumstances, and past traumatic experiences, has kind of caused my brother to have these anger issues and to make some bad decisions in life. Being the fact that I've been with my brother all my life, I've been the main one to visit with him and correspond with him through letters and emails and stuff like that. I've been able to see my brother mature into a man physically, mentally, and emotionally. Melvin's way of thinking is completely different than what it was in the past. In the past, he would use violence first, whereas now, he can call me and I'm having a bad day about something, or I'm upset about, some type of problem I'm going through. And Melvin would first find a way, he calms me down, and then he always comes up with a solution to the problem without using violence and without using fighting or anything like that now. Whereas he would use violence first in the past. Melvin, every time we communicate, the first thing he talks about is the victim and the family, and how his main concern is how he hurt the family, and he wishes to do more on the outside. Melvin realizes he was wrong. I've seen so much growth with him since he's been incarcerated. Like I say, I believe that Melvin's growth comes from the death of his only son, and my almost dying 2 times in a row. 2 years I was put on life support and almost died myself. And so losing family members, he now understands the depth of what he did. And another thing, and it's helped him empathize and understand the gravity of what he has done. I believe another motivation for my brother is our father. Our father is 73 years old. He's blind and in a nursing home. He used to come see my brother with me, but he ended up having a stroke, and so he's not able to get around like he used to, and now he's blind. So every time I talk to my dad, first thing he asks about is my brother, and want to know, is he ever going to be able to get out? He misses hugging him. He wants to feel his presence again. He wants to hug him again, and he wants to be able to talk to him again. And
Shruti, can you wrap it up for us, ma'am, please?
Yes, ma'am. I also wanted to tell y'all that I have 3 boys myself, and Melvin has also been trying to help me with them and their decision-making process coming up, so that none of them makes the same mistakes that he has made. I believe that he's going to get out, and he's going to help other young men to not make the same mistakes that he has made in life.
Ma'am, thank you. Thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
One more thing, real quick.
One more thing. I just wanted to say that Melvin does have a place to stay. He does have a strong support system, and I will have my stuff together by the time he gets out, and he will be able to live with me if he needs to. And I can get him a job where I am working at. They do hire felonies and inmates and people that have been in prison. So until he's able to leave Louisiana or whatever he wants to do once he gets out, he will have a place to stay and a job when he gets out. And I do want to convey that to y'all. And I thank y'all for your time.
All right. And we have Ms. Kitty Martinez.
Hi, yes, it's actually Martin now, but thank you. I want to first off say that to the family of Mr. Thornton, I'm very sorry for y'all's traumatic past, and I do understand how things in our childhood can affect us as adults.
Mhm.
However, upon saying that, I'd like to say a few things about Frankie. I think Frankie's kind of gotten lost in all of this. Frankie was born October the 5th of 65, so he was 31 when Mr. Thornton killed him. I met Frankie when I was still in high school. He was about 8 months older than me. Frankie was a big guy, 6'5", like 220 pounds. Beautiful guy, honestly, he was. Frankie was raised by his grandparents most of his life. His mom and dad divorced when he was very young, and both of them were real unstable. His grandparents were wonderful, wonderful people. After I met him, when other kids were out at parties and stuff, me and Frankie were with his grandparents. We fished, we hunted. He was a great shot, he really was. With being such a big guy, Frankie was raised in the Lutheran church. He was in a private school until about the age of 14. At 14, he did go live with his mom, who had finally stabilized her life and was in a great relationship with a wonderful man. And they moved from Houston to a little bitty small town called Madisonville. And Frankie had a very, very good when he was in high school and that kind of thing. It was a very, very good transition for him, but he was always with the grandparents. With him being so big, Frankie was like a gentle giant. Frankie was the most non-confrontational person I had ever met in my entire life, probably other than my husband right now. Frankie was in Louisiana working when he was killed by Mr. Thornton. We had 3 children, and I say had because our only daughter did pass away 6 years ago. And I have to tell you, for children, losing their father was devastating to them. I mean, how do you explain to a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 10-year-old that their dad is never coming home? There's never going to be a reconciliation. There's never going to be any more weekends with him. And then with that, even through adulthood, the limitless questions. Why did it have to happen? Why was he there? And at the time when Frankie was killed, you know, you go into kind of mom mode, and it was all about protecting the kids. I did not go to any of the trials. I didn't want to deal with any of it. Frankie's mom and Nanny and her ex-husband, granddaddy, were involved when it was all going on. I honestly didn't want to hear anything about it. I was very young, and I didn't want to know, honestly, to tell you the truth. And I have to thank the Victims Advocacy for contacting me it's been about a year ago, actually, about this hearing that was coming up. So now, being a much older woman and being a grandmother, it was kind of like, I need to go back and figure out what happened. And I did read all of the trial stuff, and I did look into everything, and I did look into Mr. Thornton's past. And I have to tell you, it was very scary to find out that if he had been in with his 6-year conviction, if he had been in jail, maybe that sliding moment hadn't happened. Maybe Frankie hadn't been at that grocery store that night, or convenience store, or whatever it was. Frankie was not armed. Frankie was not trying to hurt anybody. They asked him for a lift, and he gave these guys a lift, and that was just kind of the way Frankie was. Honestly, Frankie was a country boy, and he would have, if some guy said, "Hey, can we give you a lift?" he'd be like, "Sure, jump in, let's go," you know. And then I have to also mention Frankie's mom. Frankie was an only child. Nanny, his mother, Carol, had several miscarriages, and Frankie was born very, very premature. Frankie's mom was devastated. I can't even tell you. And now, being a mother of a deceased child, it is devastating, and it changes the person that you were. Nanny died in 2009 at the age of 63. She had been on dialysis, not for very long, actually. Nanny insisted on coming off of dialysis and going into hospice. I'm a nurse. I knew what was going to happen, and I knew it was going to happen very fast once she decided that, and I begged her not to do that. And all Nanny could say was, I'll finally get to be with Frank. All she wanted was to be with him. And so it just kind of confounding to hear all of these things and to think that to begin with, you know, to have so many felonies that you can't remember whether or not one was, you know, done or not, to find out that this person is counseling young children who, after one arrest after the other, I would be very concerned with that. And also with the violence against police officers. I mean, he's had not one, but two. He's had two assaults against police officers. And I just feel that, yeah, he might have been a good boy for the last, you know, several years, but again, he's in prison. What can he do? My biggest question is, what would he do once he's out? At 46 years of age, there's still time for him to burglarize people. There's still time for him to resist arrest. There's still time for him to kill people, to kill somebody else's husband, to kill somebody else's father, to kill somebody else's son. So I just want to say, he never needs to be out. This guy never, ever, ever needs to be out of jail. I'm sorry, he does not. And I really went into this with a very open mind, because I kind of thought, after this much time, maybe, until I got the backstory. When you hear the backstory and you hear it over and over and over again, I'm sorry, no, he needs to stay in prison.
Yes, ma'am. Sid, can you wrap it up for us, please, ma'am?
I'm just going to say that I thank the advocacy board for contacting me. I am on here for his family. His mom's dead. My two sons were so young at this point, they didn't want to, I don't want to say they didn't want to get involved. They just don't have the capacity to deal with it, I don't believe. And again, his biggest champion was my daughter, and my daughter is gone. And she was a total daddy's baby. And to know that.
Ms. Martin, we need to move on.
All right.
So interrupt. We're well beyond the 3 minutes.
Yeah, please continue to contact me about any other hearings so that we can be prepared again.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for taking the time to share that information. Mr. Thornton, is there a brief statement you'd like to make to us before we go?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Board, and definitely Ms. Martin, you know, my deepest apologies for my behavior, and no, Mr. Dunaway is not forgotten in this. He lives with me every day and will for the rest of my life, because I know what I've done. And, you know, I understand the pain that people go through when they lose a loved one. I'm not the man I was. I'm not that kid I was. I got plans for the outside if I'm fortunate enough to get out there and do what I need to do. I have a mentornet program I'm doing. I have another program I work for criminals, you know, because I understand what we're looking for and what needs to happen. There's too much violence in the world today. I just seen on the news this morning with a 12-year-old getting killed. It's too much. It got to stop. And I feel like I be doing my part. I need to be doing my part. And I'm starting here. And I would appreciate if you gave me the mercy to work with you out there to stop violence. But I understand what I'm looking for, what to look for in children. I understand it. And I want to help. I do. We can do this together. We can. But we got to stop this violence, man. It's too much. It's too much out there. So I believe that we can do it. And I'm serious. I really believe that. I don't want no more part of violence. I'm tired of it. I really am. I see too much of it. So I'm a changed man. I'm not the same one. And I'm just, you know, hoping the board exercises its mercy and grace, which I understand that's what this hearing is about. I understand that. I understand completely. And again, by all means, Ms. Martin, I am truly sorry. I really am. I really
All right,
am.
Mr. Thornton, I think we are prepared to vote. We're going to move on. Mr. Roche.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Thornton, to be very, very candid with you. You are not a suitable candidate for a commutation of sentence. Now, based that opinion on your prior criminal history in California and Louisiana, your poor supervision history, you've been revoked at least times, express opposition from the entire legal community, overwhelming express opposition from the victim's family, especially the victim's children. I think you need some additional programming. And basically, 24 years of incarceration is insufficient time served for the premeditated murder of Mr. Frank Dunaway. My vote is to deny your request.
Thank you, Mr. O'Shea. Mr. Novello?
Madam Chairman, my vote is the same for the same reasons as Mr. Rocha.
Mr. Friedman?
Mine's the same also.
Ms. Jackson?
Ms. Carter, you've got some more work to do. Keep working. My vote today also is to deny. I don't think you're ready. I think there's some more things you need to work on. And good luck to you.
Fine. All right, Mr. Thornton, you received 4 votes to deny your application. So today, your application for clemency has been denied, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for hearing me.
That concludes our business at the state penitentiary. It is 4:12. We are going to adjourn. Thanks, Warden Ambo, for accompanying.
You're welcome.
I felt like the board gave us a merciful, quick ending to the hearing. I don't know. You know, it was the last hearing of the day, and it was a long day. A lot of hearings. I think the board was tired. I think I might be tired. But the final people to speak, it was just kept going and going and going, way over the allotted 3 minutes, which is nice when it's the victim, but when it's just kind of like what feels like an unthoughtful, just dragging on and on. And in favor of the victim, they just kept going and going and going too. It's like, he was a man, and we have the court documents. We'll go over it. He's gifted with the I guess the gift of the gab, so to speak. He seemed intelligent, and he took every opportunity when a question was asked him. He took every opportunity to instead of just giving an answer, he would give a story. He would try to share some type of piece of information to make himself look better. But he's changed his story, like I said, so many times about what had happened. And we'll go over the court documents to try to get somewhat of an accurate story. Even the documents are a bit all over the place. He has the contributing to the delinquency of a minor, which always triggers me. You don't know what it is, but it can be something much worse that they plead down to. We've seen that, so that certainly upsets me. Cruelty to animals. It's like, okay, that's great. That's never, like, how do you even how does that even happen? you know, and then it's like when they mention his programs and he talks about sobriety and how he's like, well, I made the decision I wanted to be sober, but then he didn't really seem to take that many programs for sobriety, and he didn't really seem to, you know, it wasn't like he was talking about what we hear typically from someone who might be in that, you know. But again, giving him a little bit of a hard time there because in reality, you know, was he claims to have not done any hard drugs. He claims to not be an alcohol, you know, it's just smoking pot. And really that, I'm not like the board when it comes to that. I don't feel, oh my gosh, you need to now go to AANA because you were smoking pot. We forget, but at the beginning he was given 154 days jail credit, and they caught that. Like, why would you get 154 days jail credit if you were in prison for like 3 years in jail before you had your hearing? It's interesting. Mr. Roche was a librarian, so he catches all these little details. He's very studious. Also, I know he tried to set him up. He said, when was the last time you smoked pot? And he was honest, to his credit, because Mr. Roche for sure caught a write-up back there the last time that he did. Now, this man seems to have changed his life. He hasn't had a write-up in basically, what, 2000 and, was it 11 or 12? And he's seems to have been doing great, but they're just saying, they're like, you're not even, you don't even qualify with your long record and all of your revocations. You don't even qualify, which is interesting because I never really realized that they looked at it that way. We've seen people who have done the most horrendous crimes qualify, but they don't like people who have been revoked. They don't like people who have multiple felonies. They seem to say, okay, well, if this was your first felony, then you can qualify because you only brutally murdered someone once. But if you have a long track record, and you know, it is interesting. He does have a long record. 1990, it's like the armed robbery. 1991, assault on a police officer. 1991, petty theft. 1993, assault with a deadly weapon. 1990, and it goes on and on and on. And I know it was in 2 different states, so it got like, but the idea that he kept getting these suspended sentences, I wonder how that happened. You know, back in the 90s, they loved just locking people up and throwing away the keys. So I don't really know. He seemed to have just gotten really lucky. And maybe it was like, I don't know, actually. So there's the facts, which again, they don't say much, but during the late evening hours of April 10th, 1999, the department received a report of a gunshot, and it was heard in a certain neighborhood, and that what they heard was a truck that was accelerating, and then it crashed. And it was, they found a pickup truck crashed into a mailbox, or it had hit a mailbox before coming to complete stop. And when they approached the truck, they saw the body of a white male, and he had a gunshot wound to the back of his head, but he'd been shot in the face at close range under the left eye, exiting the back of his head. He didn't have a chance. And then the next evening, the 19-year-old Ronnie Cole, which was who they were talking about here today, he went to the police station. He identified Thornton as a shooter. So the police began looking for him. and they received an anonymous tip that he was hiding in his aunt's house, and that's when he was arrested. It's like, what are you doing? You're just gonna go up, ask a dude for a ride, shoot him in the face, and then run to your aunt's house. It's like, you're so brave. You're such a gangster. It's like, you just don't get it. And according to him, he wasn't even drinking or doing hard drugs. He was just high on pot. Like, what causes someone to do that? When they go through here where they're just talking about legalities of the court and his appeal. This evidence included, so he's saying that this evidence wasn't believable, that Caldwell's testimony that he witnessed Thornton shoot Dunaway while trying to rob him. Caldwell and Thornton had obtained a ride with Dunaway at John's Texaco station where they had gone to purchase beer. Oh, okay. Caldwell testified that he had exited the back of the truck. He saw Thornton holding a gun at Dunaway's face while telling him to give it up, and then Caldwell heard a shot. It seems like this 19-year-old was hanging out with this guy. He had no idea. He was just hanging out with him, and then his buddy went and shot him. It's still rare that he wasn't tried, because we've seen, you're hanging out with him, no, you're getting tried. But they just didn't prosecute him, and maybe it was because he testified against him, and they just didn't feel that, and they believed his story that he had no idea. But can you imagine you're giving someone a ride, like the woman he spoke on his behalf? She said he was just like a country boy. He's in a pickup truck. They ask for a ride, so he gives them a ride, and then they kill him. And he has 3 little babies at home, 3 kids under the age of 10. That's just sick. They would just take a life. Rodriguez Brantley testified they met Thornton while in jail, and Thornton confessed the entire crime to him. Brantley informed the jail warden. Brantley testified that Thornton told him that he shot Dunaway with a .38 handgun he stole from his grandfather. He also testified that Thornton had stated that while he was in jail, Thornton confessed to murder him. Thornton drew 3 maps outlining the crime scene and his involvement. Carlson presented the maps to the jail warden. It's always funny how these criminals confess to their bunkies. Now, I know that some of the times those confessions never happened, and it's a bunkie that is just trying to get something. And I don't know. I wonder what percentage of it is true confessions and what of it percentage is made up. I really wonder what it would be, because they have nothing to lose to pretend that the guy confessed. Michael Stelly is an expert in fingerprint identification. Identified Thornton's fingerprints on the maps. Oh, so then they claim that the maps are authentic because his fingerprints are on them. The remaining evidence included the testimony of Thornton's grandmother, who testified that her husband reported his .38 stolen. Officer Jenkins confirmed that such a report occurred. She saw him playing video games around midnight. When viewed the lights most favorable to the state with the evidence. I mean, they just don't have a lot of details. It's just a random, completely disgusting, senseless act. So sick. It makes me sick. It makes all of us sick. You think about it. He's a dad. 3 babies at home, giving them a ride, and the guy pulls out his gun and shoots him. What a champion. I like how the board just kind of shut it down. Like, you don't even qualify for commutation. And then he kind of goes on in his rant at the end, how he's like, and I really want to change. Crime is really bad. I believe we can change it. I believe we can. He's like, he loves hearing himself talk. It's like, dude, you're not changing crime. Like, you know. Anyways. It is interesting still to me how the board was like insulted that he even applied because of his record, and I guess that's just the way that they view it. They don't really care so much how violent your crime was, but if you were a repeat offender and you have this type of life sentences, they don't take it well. But love to hear your thoughts. I mean, there were at some points when I thought that I was maybe getting manipulated by him. There were points when I felt that I was actually kind of rooting for him, because he seemed to be, he seemed to be somewhat insightful and smart and was saying smart things. But when it's all said and done, I feel like maybe it was like just kind of like a fleeting moments. But love to hear your thoughts on this as always. And yeah, please do like and subscribe and help the channel grow. And with that, I will let you go.